Welcome back, guys. Moving on to the next test question. We have to sketch this function here, and we have to state the domain and range. Now, before getting into this, if you haven't watched the lecture videos on graphing, highly recommend you watch that first, because I go through the steps in a little bit more detail. I'm going to be going through these questions pretty quickly, assuming you've already watched those videos. So, as I mentioned in those videos, first thing to notice, what's the parent function you're dealing with? Depends on the base. The base here is 2. So we got y is equal to 2 to the x. That's the parent function in this case. So let's make a table for it. Let's do -1, 0, and 1. So 2 to the power -1, 0.5. 2 to the power 0 is 1. 2 to the power 1 is 2. Next thing, you want to make sure that this is in the proper transformation format. Proper transformation format is what? A, b to the power of kx minus d plus c. So that's the general format it's got to be in, and then we can get the a value, k value, d value, c value. So if we take this, switch it into this format, we'll have y equals 2 to the power of 1 minus x. You want to rewrite that as -x plus 1. And this will be -3. And then over here, you want to make sure that x is by itself. You want to factor out the k value. K value is -1. There's like a -1 in front of the x. So if we factor out a -1 at the top, we'll be left with x minus 1. And this will be -3. All right, so from here, we could tell what the transformation values are. The a value, there's like a 1 in front here, right? If it's just the base, then the a value is going to be 1. K value is -1. The d value is going to be +1. It's going to always be the opposite sign, so this is shifted to the right by 1. C value is -3. Now you may get a question like this. They may also ask for the transformation. So in this case, no vertical stretch or compression, no horizontal stretch or compression, but there's a reflection in the y-axis, 1 unit right, 3 units down. So once we have our transformation values, I'm actually going to rewrite them over here. -1, d value is 1, c value is -3. And then I'm going to transform this table here. And what's the formula that we use to transform points? X over k plus d. So x over k value -1 plus that d value of 1. All the y values get multiplied by a, so by 1. So it's just y, and then we add the c value, so it's -3. So -1 divided by -1 is +1, plus 1 gives us 2. 0 divided by that is 0, plus 1 gives us 1. 1 divided by -1 plus 1 gives us 0. 0.5 minus 3, that gives us -2.5. 1 minus 3 gives us -2. And then 2 minus 3 gives us -1. So from here, we're good to graph the transformed function. Now, remember, with exponential functions, first thing you always want to graph is the horizontal asymptote. Horizontal asymptote, it's always the c value. It's always the number that's on the end there. So in this case, it's -3. So we know at y equals -3, there's going to be a horizontal asymptote. Then we just plot these points. So 2 and -2.5, that would be where? Let's say, let's write out 1, 2, 3. And then let's draw a scale for the y-axis as well. So 1, 2, and then 3 is the horizontal asymptote. So let's plot these. So 2 and -2.5. So 2, -2.5, that's like somewhere there. Then we'll have 1 and -2, so that would be like here. Then we'll have 0 and -1 over here. Basically, this function is looking something like this. Okay. If you want these points a little bit more spread out, you can you could add points to the parent function, or you could even use here like -2 This would be 0.25, and then if you put 2 here, this would be 4. You see these endpoints will be a little bit more spread out, so it'll be looking more like a curve. So once we have our graph, really easy to state the domain and the range. So the domain in this case is what? X is an element of real numbers. Range is Y is an element of real numbers, but Y has to be greater than -3. Sometimes they'll ask for this in set notation too, so basically X would be an element between -infinity and +infinity, or Y would be an element, if it's greater than -3, it will be from -3 to +infinity, and it's not inclusive of that -3. That's why there's a circle bracket there. Right? That's the domain, that's the range, that's the graph.